Hello there and welcome to Tom's Warhammer Minis. Today's tutorial is a much requested one both on YouTube as well as my personal Instagram. We're focusing solely on the Deathwatch chapter of the Space Marines. The Deathwatch are known as the Long Vigil or the Long Watch. They consist of veterans from different chapters who are called up to serve the Inquisitorial Order Xenos. Their speciality? Destroying anything from Tyranids to Necrons. If it's Xenos, it will be purged in the name of the God Emperor. Now in this tutorial, I'll be showcasing a way of painting them like never seen before. The armour that you've seen has zero highlighting to do. There are no highlights, even though you can see them. It saves a lot of time doing it this way and will leave you with an heavy metal style finish. It's a trust the process scenario that looks fantastic. Most hobbyists highlight in grey. Now in my eyes, I don't like that on black armour. I'll be guiding you through the reasoning behind the turquoise style of edge highlight colours and making this incredible range stand out like they've never done before. Now with that said, it's time to start painting. So grab your paints, grab your brushes, let's get hobbying. So let's get started with our Deathwatch tutorial. Now there's a couple of things to note. I'm only going to be focusing on this character because this guide really is about the armour and how to achieve it with doing zero highlights and making it look really awesome. And essentially all the armour across the Deathwatch is the same. Now this character's got a lot of extra details. We've got the Necron blade, which I think is important to showcase. I have built it with a plasma pistol, which rules-wise is illegal. It's not meant to be there. It's meant to be a bolt pistol, but I do mainly painting rather than playing. And if you can imagine the glow of the plasma, the glow of the Necron, in artistic terms, it's going to look really cool. With that said and out the way, all the colours can be transferred across all the models. I have primed the model in white scar, which is quite odd for Deathwatch. Their armour's black. But like we've said, this is going to be a zero armour highlight guide. So white being bright means we can put a bright colour as our foundation colour, that underlayer, and we can build up to the blacks later. Gives us a lot of control of seeing where the colours go and what's working well. And with all of that mentioned, let's get started. The first colour I'm using is Black Templar, and I like to get this done out of the way to begin with, because these areas are hard to get to. It means we can fix the armour if we make a mistake, and also we can see where these details are. So Black Templar is going over all the soft seals of the armour. Now the reason I'm using Black Templar is it's better than Black Legion in this instance. Black Legion is a very dark black, it's great, but in such small areas like this, Black Templar sits into the recesses and is as dark as Black Legion. But what it does is it leaves a nice natural highlight on all of those edges, which means we can be very cheeky. As you can see, they stand out so perfectly, we don't need to highlight them later. So take your time, get those all done. You've got little bits just in between where the armour has the edge highlight. It doesn't matter if you catch them, they're going to get blackened anyway. So we can afford to be a bit messy, just try your best not to catch the edges of the armour. And if you do, you can always fix it with white scar. The areas to note, you've got obviously the hands, you've got a little bit there. You've got the elbow, shoulder, both arms. You've got the waist that goes all the way around. You've got between the legs, underneath, back of the legs there. So there's lots of little areas to cover. Get that done and we can move on to the next stage. We're going to start with our founding colour, and before we go into what it is and how to apply it, let's talk about the reasons why you're seeing what you're seeing. The Deathwatch are black, and you're thinking, what on earth, why is it completely blue? Now obviously if you've seen my videos before, you know this is going to end up black, with this colour being the edge highlight. But there's things to consider when painting black armour, especially on Space Marines. Predominantly, this is all going to be black, but think of the gun casing, that's black too. You've got the soft seal armour, that's black too. Now when you look at the heavy metals one, the actual box art, when you look at the other YouTubers, they've traditionally done grey highlights over the entire thing. And that is absolutely acceptable, that's fine, it looks good. But here's the thing, the gun casing is not the same as the armour. The soft seal, again the word soft, is not hard like the armour. And it's completely different from the gun casing. If it's all the same highlight, it all blends into one thing, and it really makes the eyes struggle to define all the different features. And that's why you'll see quite often blue tinted black armour, especially when it comes to the highlighting. It's a real game changer, and it just really helps to showcase all the different details of these fantastic models. And that's what we're going for here. So the colour I've used is a Keelian green. and I've used a tiny drop of Lamy Medium just to help with the flow. This is not a ratio mix, this is mostly Achillean green and just a tiny little drop. Now, the beauty of this is, when it comes to the flow, is to help with pooling, or should I say to avoid the pooling. But we haven't got to worry too much. Now, if you can see just in the corner here, I have got a little bit of pooling just in the little shin area of the leg armour, and that's okay. Remember, the next step is going to be painted all black, but we won't be painting the edges. So a slight bit of pooling is not going to be a real problem here. It means we do have a bit of leeway of getting away with certain mistakes. Take your time, get that done, and there's a couple of things else to note. There are lots of areas where there's going to be metallic details. We can be a bit sloppy and a bit messy and accidentally catch those details. That's absolutely acceptable. When you're base coating metallics on, you haven't got to worry if you've made a mistake. There are areas where we need to be careful, such as the purity seals, the pouches and stuff, because that's going to be in contrast paints and we don't have to relayer. So just take your time around those details, but you've got a little bit of leeway, especially when it comes to the metallic details we're going to paint on. So that is our Achillean green done. Now we've already talked about the distinction between the black grey armour and the black blue armour. We're going to do the casing of the gun at the same time, and the colour I'm using here is Basilicanum Grey, and this is a 1-to-1 mix with Lamy Medium just to thin it down, because this again is going to be our edge highlighting colour that's already set in place. Think of these as our undertones, our underlayers that are prepping us. The next stage is going to take a bit of a long time, but the beauty of it is it will mean 0 highlights. Next up, we're base coating all the black details of our Deathwatch Space Marine. As you can see, it's very bright, it's very vivid. Trust the process, we're going to be toning it down like the heavy metal team would do in the next stage. But we need to get that colour fixed and in place. The colour I'm using here is Black Legion. It's strong, it's dark, it's vivid, and it really base coats the colour. We have got to be careful, you can easily lose control and mess up the details, and I really recommend a small layer brush to achieve this. Now essentially, like I've explained before, what we're going to do, we're going to paint all of the armour up to the edges, avoiding the edges, leaving that colour that we've done before, the Achillean green, in place as the natural highlight. And as you can see, it does take time. I recommend a small layer brush to keep the control, but what you can do and what you can achieve is some extreme details and highlights that are fixed in place that are quite normally an absolute pain and nightmare to achieve. Things like the fingers, where just a small drop of black means we've got a highlighting edge all the way around all the fingers, which personally, if you're painting traditionally, it's something that I personally suck at. It's just one of those things that really is a challenge. Now the beauty of the Space Marine that they do here, it's quite open. The arms are stretched out wide. It's very easy to achieve. Just take your time, get those done. I've done the same on the gun casing, same on the Space Marine, and then we'll tone it down in the next stage. It's now time to finish off our Deathwatch armour as well as the gun casing style colour armour too. Now we're going to tone these colours down ever so slightly with a couple of mixes, and it's going to mean that our armour is completely finished, all the highlights in place, and we can just move on to remaining details. To begin with, let's focus on the Deathwatch armour. I've created a 2-to-1 mix using Pterodon Turquoise and Lamy Medium. It's going to be 2 parts Lamy Medium, 1 part Pterodon Turquoise. And quite simply, I've applied it straight over all of the black armour, avoiding the soft sealed areas because we don't want to cover that in the turquoise colour scheme. What it does, it's going to tint the black armour ever so slightly to the turquoise, and it's just going to dull down the Achillean green highlight ever so slightly. Yes, on the camera it's bright, bold and vivid, but these are strong daylight bulbs that are shining straight down. When you see it in natural light, it's a lot darker, a lot duller, but it's very noticeable. It looks really good. Same again, we're going to create a 2-to-1 mix. This time I'm taking Black Templar. It's going to be 2 parts Lamy Medium, 1 part Black Templar. And the exact same principles of the Deathwatch armour, I'm applying it over the gun casing. The highlights remain in place, but it just darkens it down ever so slightly, just so it's not so vivid, but it's still very noticeable. While I've had this mixed together, I've done a couple of other details. I used it on the gravel that's around the Necrons, and that's again if you've applied that there. I've used it on the piping that's textured, because it puts the natural colour into the recess, automatically highlights, stands out really nicely, meaning that's completely done. I've also applied it to this character's head, in the sense of his hair, just gets that done too. So there's a few areas you can apply that to, and then we can move on to the next stage, There's not really that much left to do. Next up, we're focusing on all the metallic details. Now, this is because it's the second biggest amount of colour that we're going to be applying, and this is mainly to do with the silver. It's the biggest second colour you'll see across all the Deathwatch models. Now, just for guidance, we kind of want it nice and bright, because this is going to really contrast nicely against the dark black tones of the armour. The colour I'm using here is Iron Hand Steel. And just one important note, on the shoulder pad here for the heraldry, you'll see that most of the armour trims are painted in heraldry colours. That is your choice. I wanted to show that this guy is part of the Deathwatch, and I've painted it in the silver trim just to match with the other shoulder pad. But again, it's personal choice. Now, rather than explaining every single bit to paint, I'm just going to do a slow 360, because it'll be a lot quicker than me just explaining to you exactly where to apply all this detail. There is a lot to cover. All I can say is just take your time, because once it's done, it's out of the way, and it means the model is all downhill from there in the most positive way. Moving on from that, we're doing the gold details, nice and simple Retributor armour. Things to note, like the shoulder pad, you're just doing the skull and crossbones, that's all there is for the Deathwatch. You've got the sigils here. I've done the purity seals in this gold rather than pink, because it's quite bold and bright. You've got the little inquisitorial icon there. You've got the knee pads, things like that. The hidden one is this little detail that's sometimes on some of their upper elbows, upper shoulders. Not quite sure what it is, but I've painted that in the gold too. Finally, my last metallic paint is Brass Scorpion. Now, I've painted this over the Ruined Necron because I've been doing this Sarkhan Dynasty. So that's the colour I'm using for. But I've also painted it on the coils underneath the plasma pistol. Obviously, that's going to be our glowing plasma, but this is just the underneath part. And those are all of our metallic details fully base coated. Next up, we've got a whole host of colours, and I'm going to run through them in quick succession. So let's start with the shoulder pad, and this is specific to the Imperial Fists. For the black, I used Black Templar, the previous mix that I used to darken down this. And as a reminder, that was 2:1, 2 parts Lamy Medium, 1 part Black Templar. The circle in the middle, we're not painting, we're leaving that in the white scar that it was primed in. But for the yellow, I'm using Imperial Fist. Now, while I've got this paint to hand, I've painted it over the bulb of this bit here, just to provide some yellow luminescence. Moving on from that, we're going to focus on the red details. And the colour I'm using here is Flesh Tearers Red. So this is for things like the cables, the weapon handle. You've got cables here, and then you've got the screen pad on his wrist. Simple things like that. Moving on, and we're focusing on the plasma pistol here, so it's specific to this. For that blue glow, Frostheart is an absolute gem of a colour that works really nicely on things like that. Focusing on the face, and the colour I'm base coating this in is Reikland Flesh Shade. Now the tip here is we want it inside the mouth to create a shadow effect, let it dry completely, and then we're painting a second layer of Reikland Flesh Shade once again all over the face and inside the mouth. You'll end up with this awesome colour effect, which really stands out against the dark armour, but it also enhances all the details. Let that fully dry, and we're going to focus on the tongue. It's only a small area, but the Lupus Pink works absolute wonders. Moving on from that, the colour I'm using next is Nuln Oil, and I'm using this to base coat and shade the skull, and then you've got this little rosary bead that's going all around his wrist just here. And finally, my last colour in this quick succession of run-throughs is Skeleton Horde. Nice and simple over the parchment paper, but I'm also using this to underlayer all of the brown leather details. Now, we'll be using Cygor Brown in the next step. This is just to help put in some shade and shadow and just really set up the tone of the leather details that I'll be going with. And once that's done, we can move on to the next stage. Moving on to the next set of colours, my first colour is Tesseract Glow. Now, you've got 3 energy nodes on the Xenos blade. If you've accidentally caught a paint on them, I left them in White Scar, but you can relayer in White Scar and paint this on. You've then got these Necron glyphs, which I've done in Tesseract Glow. I've also painted the base. Now, you don't have to do that if you're doing your own texture base. If you've seen my Necron Canoptic Circle Kill Team tutorial, you'll know exactly what I'm doing here. And with that said, it also applies to the actual Necron blade. You'll understand where I'm going with this, but I've base coated it in Bad Moon Yellow. It's that underlayer that we've been talking about on all the different colours. Moving on from that, let's focus on our brown leather details. And I'm creating a mix of Cygor Brown and Lamy Medium in a 1:1 ratio mix. And quite simply, we're just painting it very neatly over all of our brown leather details. Skeleton horde that we did earlier will just help to shade down the recesses and really enrich the brown. While we're doing this, we might as well shade all of our metallic details. The first colour I'm using is Drakenhof Nightshade. This is over all of our silver details, though I haven't done the large flat areas because there's no point, we're only going to spoil them. Now, I've chosen Drakenhof Nightshade rather than Nuln Oil. Nuln Oil is black, we've got a lot of black going on, we've got a lot of blue going on. This is a different blue, it just helps to make things stand out that little bit more. And for all of our gold and bronze details, I've shaded them in Reikland Flesh Shade. Next up, we're focusing solely on the Necron blade. Now, we did the Bad Moon's yellow, that's completely dry, and once it's done, I'm painting a layer of Hexray Flame all over. There are a couple of areas it is going to start pooling in, especially on this curved area. As long as we move the brush around and the pooling's not heavy, it's going to be okay. We're going to be applying different colours in the next couple of stages to get that blade completely done. But as you can see, we're really creating that under there, that foundation green colour that's going to work really nicely. And just for information purposes, if you haven't seen the Necron tutorial, at the moment the edge highlight that we've got in place, both on the curve and the actual main edges, that is our highlight colour already set in place. We do exactly the same as what we did on the black armour of our Deathwatch. Next up, in the exact same technique of avoiding the edges but putting in the detail in the main sections, we're taking Kandras green and we're painting up the Necron blade, leaving our edge highlight completely in place, but it is looking bright and vibrant and it's really standing out. Just take your time, once again using a small layer brush, just have the tip on your brush, start at one end, bring it down. There's not a lot to do here, it's not going to take as long as the actual armour. Moving on from that, we're focusing on the base. Now around the glyph, that's the Necron one here, I've base coated that material in Warp Lightning, but with the same paint I'm creating our design that I did in the Necron Canoptic Circle Kill Team tutorial. Essentially, the more random it is, the better. Envision the lines, so for instance start here, just draw your outline with the Warp Lightning, create your pattern, fill in the middle. It's as simple as that. The more random it is, the better it will look. Next up, we're finishing off the blade as well as the base. The colour I'm using here is Dark Angel's Green. Now, quite simply, I'm mirroring it on both sides. So what you see on the bottom here, I've done exactly on the other side. So start at the bottom. You're painting the Dark Angel's Green, again avoiding the edge to keep that highlight in place. For this round nodule here, I've painted it on the halfway point that's on this side. Wash my brush and I'm filling it upwards. We've got a nice natural blend. Same here, I've got a heavier amount at the base here with a clean brush. While it's damp, not soaking wet, I've filled up the Dark Angel's Green towards the tip. Both sides creates that effect that we see on Necron blades. For the base, imagine that Warp Lightning as a thin green line alongside the Tesseract Glow, and I'm keeping that highlight in place and I'm just painting the Dark Angel's Green around the other areas, exactly like I did in my Necron tutorial. So if you've seen that, you know exactly what I'm doing. Moving on from that, I'm creating a 1-to-1 mix of Lamia Medium and Moot Green. We only need a small amount for this. I'm just applying it in the chest cavity of the Necron to create that glow. Finally, to finish off the blade and some other details, I'm taking gloss varnish, and the one I use is Citadel's own Ard Coat. Now I've applied this over the entirety of the Necron blade, and I've applied it over any light sources. So you've got the little red light that we got here, the yellow light, the light on the skull, the bit on his wrist, as well as the plasma glow. It's nice and simple, it just adds to all those details and gives it a natural shine. If I move the camera, the model, you can see it has a nice natural shine. With that done, our model is what I would call officially battle ready. It's a bit of a lie, it's well beyond that stage. You've only got a couple of highlights left to do to make it pop, and we'll do that in the next few steps. It's time to finish off our model by applying the highlights, and I'm going to go for all of the highlights I've used. There's not too many, but there's just enough that makes this model really stand out a lot more, especially as we've done all that work on the armour. So to begin with, the silver details are what's going to take the longest. The colour I'm using here is Stormhost Silver. We base coated bright, we need something brighter to really make it pop. So just traditional edge highlights with this colour will just bring it all to life a lot more. For our gold details, there's a lot less than the silver, but we're doing simple edge highlights of Liberator Gold. Moving on from that, even fewer than the gold, is the bronze details, and the colour I'm using here is Canoptic Alloy. Once that's done, the skull up here, I've done a simple edge highlight around the eyes and a couple of dots on the teeth, and the colour I've used is White Scar. Focusing on the face, I've done some spot highlights, just the nose, and a couple of tiny edge highlights around the chin, the mouth and the eyes, and the colour I've used is Flayed One Flesh. Focusing on the face still, this time the tongue, we just need a tiny little edge highlight of Fulgrim Pink, just to make it stand out a little bit more. Next up, the scrolls and parchment, just here and here, simple edge highlights of Screaming Skull, and then we're adding some extra detail, some wavy lines that are just used a small amount of Abaddon Black. You just want a tiny tip on the brush, wipe off any excess and just do the tiniest lines imaginable. Quite simple and easy to do. And then finally, for all of our brown leather details, simple edge highlights of Deathclaw Brown. And with that all done, our model, our Deathwatch Space Marine, is 100% complete, and he looks amazing. We'll do a little 360 and showcase at the end. And there we have it. Our Deathwatch Space Marine is complete, and he really boldly stands out. These colours really do just enhance all the details of the model, allowing our eyes to truly focus and appreciate all the detail that Games Workshop has created. It's just one of those beauties where it looks wrong at the beginning, but as you begin painting it and add more, and when all those colours come together, it just looks fantastic. I'm really happy with it, and I look forward to painting the rest of this squad at a later date. And I hope this guide has inspired you. It really does help to create a heavy metal style looking marine, which is actually easily achievable in this guide, whereas if you were to go down the traditional methods of painting and highlighting, it's just so much more complex, time consuming and harder. So if it's inspired you, then do give the video a like, share so others can learn and be inspired too, and subscribe to see more and more contrast painting tutorials just like this. Supporting me means I get to support you, the awesome Warhammer community, and it's what I like to do. So until the next video, do look after yourselves, and happy hobbying.